Welcome, everybody. It's Stefan Rudolph again here with New Foundations Growth Group. And we're coming to you again with a great message of hope, inspiration, and just a majestic feeling of energy and being able to grow in this world. As you know from our previous interviews and what we do for everybody, New Foundations Growth Group is focused on healing and physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially, of course, in business here. And that's why we have Jessica Yarbrough with us today. Jessica, hi, how you doing?
Great, how are you?
Doing great. So I was really intrigued. I came across your website a few months ago, found you on Facebook, and I wanted to introduce you to the group here of New Foundations just by hearing a little bit about you, your story, your journey. So tell us about you and what you do.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for having me and reaching out to me. And I love this connection. And yeah, I am a business coach for women. My focus is mostly on mothers, and I'm helping them create, six-figure businesses, coaching businesses that they can run from home. And, my journey really stems from becoming a single mother and having walked away from the business world and really just trying to find my way into how I was going to support my child without any extra financial support. So going from not having anything and having to, go on food stamps and move back in with my parents to, building my business up to six figures.
Nice. I lived through that myself. My mom was 17 when she had me, and I was raised by a single mom. So that's what really inspired me when I heard your story for mompreneurs, right? I love that word.
Thank you. Yes.
And
yes, for mompreneurs.
Yeah. And so as far as going from food stamps and taking it to the next level, what were your first steps in starting your business?
I will tell you this, that I gave it up to God a bit, or if you want to call it God or the universe. I remember going outside of my home and just like crying. I had this baby and I was like, oh, what is your divine will? Tell me. And just surrendering and saying, if this is the way it's supposed to be, then so be it. And that's when the flow really started to happen. So, I started off small, consulting for little to no money, and but just really was committed to my work and, did some inner work around mindset and healing around my self-worth, and just kind of healed some of that trauma around that so I could start to raise my prices and learn to automate and then scale my business from there. So it was definitely a gradual process. I think as moms, it's a very fragile time, a very vulnerable time as a woman. You're kind of going through a lot of changes and then figuring out who you are as a person, as a woman, and as a mother. So, but I made it. I came through the other side.
I know,
so.
You broke through, and I can totally relate. I was in the corporate world for many years and trying to break through, but something kept pulling me back. And what you said right there really hit home. It's like I had to let go and let God take over, or the universe take over, or whatever people look at, because it was the financial part. I was very successful 15 years ago in a corporate job, and I was making the money, but it wasn't passionate. It was like something else was calling me. And I was sitting here going, I have to do this, but I couldn't. It kept going back and forth. And finally you just said, let go and let God take over, right?
Absolutely. And I went through a similar thing in the corporate world, and I feel like everybody goes through it. I mean, how many people are genuinely happy in the corporate world? I don't know, but you stay because the money is good. And, I went through that whole journey where I felt lost and like there was a bigger missing piece. And I was on the verge of a emotional collapse when I had what I call my spiritual awakening. And it was that same thing, like live life with a greater purpose, live in a greater alignment, and it's interesting as entrepreneurs. I love that you share your journey. It's like, we make a lot of money and then we're totally broke because we're doing this inner work. And then to be able to rise back up and make money but yet be in alignment with your mind, body, and spirit, it's phenomenal. But you have to go through that journey. Nobody's just like this the whole time.
I always use Steve Miller's quote he had in a song called "You Have to Go Through Hell to Get to Heaven," or he said that quote in there. You have to go through hell to get to heaven. I love that about him and what he said, and that was pretty much it. And you hear these inspiring stories, and there's no story that just says, "Well, I'm here, I made it." It's always like, "Well, I lost it." I watch those all the time on YouTube, so it's great to hear what you've gone through. And maybe tell us about a client or two, an example of what you've done for women out there.
Yeah, so really just helping women step into their power. I feel like so many people, especially women, don't value their talents. And so a lot of the women coming to me are not charging enough money. For one, they don't have the confidence around it. So that's one of the first things we dive into, is really owning their worth and breaking through any mental blocks around charging more money, being able to ask for the raise if they are in their job, or being able to restructure their services so they're selling more of a high-end product rather than billing hourly for what they do. So I feel like it's easy to just say, this is my skill and I'm selling this service, rather than understanding your true value, because it comes natural to you. A lot of us don't really understand like how valuable our assets are, our skills are, because it's so natural. So really understanding the transformation that you're providing through your services, and then being able to articulate that and to say your price and just pause and allow that space for them to process what you've just told them, and then ultimately closing sales. And it's very empowering for anyone, and especially women, especially mamas who don't have a lot of time.
And what comes up, my first thought is a mom that is going through a hard time, and as a coach myself and have gone through coaching, the first part, I remember looking back on my first journey when I went into coaching and was actually getting coached. It was hard for me to open up because I was used to doctors and taking medication, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and used to the way society has said it. Maybe you can give us your feedback on the difference, like between what you do as a life coach versus maybe the mom went through a lot of medical problems or was taking medication trying to get, out of depression or something and take it to the next level. What do you do maybe more holistically, or with any area that you want to talk about to take her to the next level?
Yeah, well, my focus is on more of the business side. So, but we always say that when you get into working with someone on a coaching level, it's going to spill over into
correct. Yeah, that's what I see.
Therapy, personal development, because all these different things come up. It's just getting deeper into their why. If you can understand why they're really doing what they're doing, why they want to do it, and then try to bring any blocks up from that, you'll have success. So if it's like, why do you want to make six figures? I mean, do you actually need six figures? Is there a certain lifestyle that you want? Is it, are there insecurities that come up with making more money than your partner? All these different things that come up. So it's just really going into the why, and then again, aligning them with a strategy to take them there and making sure those blocks to their success aren't there.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. And that's kind of my passion also, is growing up with my mom. She's been an entrepreneur as well. She started a business called Independent, where she does in-sitting for B&Bs, and the owners will go out of town. And she's always been asking me questions about, how to grow the business. And she was in it for many years. She went back to the corporate world, but I saw that passion though in her for quite a few years. So it really inspires me that you help women, like her and everyone else out there to take it to the next level. And is there other information you'd like to tell our audience out there, or anything about you, maybe your story? You were talking about overcoming obstacles yourself medically.
Yeah. It's been a crazy ride of life. And I always tell people, it's the things that you go through that allow you to become who you are, and you need to share those stories. And I was sharing with you that, when I was just a teenager, I was in a severe car accident and I broke my hip and had to learn to walk again. And through that experience, that's really what put me on the path of healing, of personal development work, and I think that sowed the seeds. Actually, I started to sow the seeds for leaving the corporate world, because that's when I started really getting into healing modalities and practicing yoga. And that's where the awakening, if you will, the quickening started to happen. So at the time when I was a teenager, I didn't know why it was happening to me, but looking back, just understanding the appreciation for my life and for movement, and almost like a wake-up call to do some inner work, that all stem from that accident. And so, I tell people, share your stories and be vulnerable. And the same thing when I got pregnant as a single mom, I was not in a positive relationship, and just having the courage and the power to leave that and to do what was best for my daughter and I, even if that meant extreme financial constraints, and to know that no matter what you go through, you can rise. You can rise above it. You can recreate yourself over and over and over again in this life. If you're unhappy, if you're unfulfilled, it's never too late to start again, and it doesn't matter your age. Yeah,
that's perfect. And don't ever give up. That's the best thing. And that's what I think leads us. I know it leads us to helping others. And that's what I wanted to do. Was I've always had a heart to give. And that's what you have. And that's where I see it kind of incorporating what you said about the business coaching part of it, but also life's obstacles. The more we help others grow their business, especially when a business is focused around helping others, as in life coaching, but no matter what it is, somebody's doing their business with passion because they're putting their whole life into it, right?
Right. And that's the thing. It's, that's the kind of people who are drawn to work with me. All my clients are very heart-centered. They're, money is great, but that's not their primary focus while they're doing this. Many of them have well-paying, big-paying jobs, right? Mm-hmm. So, but they want to make an impact. They want to make a difference. And that's a beautiful thing to be able to attract that kind of person to work with and then to be able to help them realize their vision.
Yeah, exactly. The 2020 vision quest. That's why I call it, go with your heart and your passion and also allow obstacles. I mean, they come into our life, and sometimes what happens with entrepreneurs is, and this happened to me for many years, I was in the corporate world, but I was doing my sole proprietorship on the side, but I kept hitting obstacles and I couldn't overcome them. I would just say, well, that's not going to work anymore. And I would give up too easy. So I'm sure you help people with that too, right? Not giving up.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you one thing that I've noticed, Lisa, in my own life, before you make that big leap of trust, before you walk away from something, like your job, or for me, it was doing done for you services, suddenly like the universe is going to put all these opportunities in front of you. And it's almost like, is this really what you want? And it's asking, that's the question, for me, it was about $50,000 worth of done for you services that suddenly, several people wanted to work with me and wanted to hire me and say, hey, I want you to build everything out. And I had to be like, no, my heart is with, coaching and teaching, and to let that part of me go so that I could open up into something bigger. And I see it time and time again with my own clients, when they're stepping into that trust, they're stepping off the cliff, can they make that step so that they can then fly and soar to greater heights? Or are they going to get sucked back into that survival? Okay, here's a quick fix. Here's some money doing the same thing that I know it's going to get me money for a period of time, but I'm not going to go anywhere beyond it, and that's the test. Do you really want it? And the people that really want it, that will step off the cliff, are the ones that are going to soar. It's
like somebody giving you a backpack in a plane and saying, hey, it's a parachute, don't worry, jump. And you're like, I'm not going to go. Let me look at it. And you're like, and you got to trust that person. And that person really is your instinct, I would say, right? Your sixth sense, they call it, your gut instinct. And I started following that and doing that. And people were like, what are you doing? And I even wrote a poem called Note to the Naysayers, because I had a lot of naysayers in my life. And there's going to be people like that. As you know, especially in business, they're comfortable, not really comfortable, but in the corporate world, they don't want to change. And they'll call you crazy, right? If you've had those people in your life, right?
I have. It's very hard. It can be some of the people that are closest to you that will not support you at all in your vision. And that's why I think, I think there are certain things, especially when we're making these big decisions, that you should hold sacred and that you shouldn't discuss and get 100 people's opinions on, because the more people you ask, the less likely you are to do it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you just need to go into a quiet place, go away, go spend a weekend camping on your own, or whatever you need to do, and get really clear on what you really want, and only you can determine that, and then make the decision. And it's the most empowering place that you can, make a decision from, without, getting everyone else's opinions and projections and fears and everything else that comes in. Make the decision of what you know to be true for you.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's our dreams and our passions will come out, but then it gets crushed by a lot of people's thoughts and views.
Absolutely.
Right? And you can't do that.
That's our nature. People are like, posts on Facebook, do you think I should do this? And it's like, no, absolutely don't, because that's going to put more doubt and fear into your mind. Mm-hmm. And if you've got to trust, like you said, your intuition, and rely on it and make the decision from that place, because, I really do believe we're supposed to have everything that we want. You know,
Yeah.
that I do believe that this is an abundant world, that, you know, you can create whatever you want. And it's not just some spiritual woo-woo stuff, because I know I've like experienced it over and over and over. But you have to do the work to get there. And sometimes that means getting out of your own way. You know, sometimes it's just being really freaking clear. Sometimes it's walking away. You have to do the work in order for the universe to be like, okay, now you really want it, so I'm going to give it to you now because you've done what you needed to do. You've done this.
I love that analogy. Get out of your own way, because I've done that before, and when I realized my own way was set by the ego from before, and we have to reset our mind. What I call Control-Alt-Delete, and reset our mind, and it's something that we need to understand, that the way we were programmed before, it worked back then, say 6 years ago, 6 months ago, but it's not working now. And then something keeps pulling us back in, saying, don't do that. Well, this is the new me, so shut up while I do it, right? Tell that ego to sit down for a while, right?
Absolutely. And that's why you need to keep growing and, you know, keep working with a coach. Doesn't matter where you're at in your business, or join masterminds, you know, do the work and do your spiritual work as well, and take care of your mind, body, and health, because, you know, we're not meant to stay static. We're meant to be ever evolving and going to a higher level with our business and our life. So, you know, to keep changing. Yeah.
Keep on growing. Like I have right here, Rocky in the background, going up the hill, going up the steps and getting to the top, and finally achieving that. And then to continue to grow by helping others too.
Absolutely.
That's awesome, Jessica. It was great to have you on here, and tell our viewers out there about how they can contact you and your website and everything.
Absolutely. Feel free to visit my site, www.jessicayarbrough.com. And I also run a Facebook group called the Mompreneur Mastermind Group. So definitely check that out. I'll share a lot of wisdom, and you get access to my 6-figure mama training when you join as well.
Yeah, and I'll have those links on here. This will be on our YouTube channel and on the Facebook, of course. So for all the listeners out there, it's been great to have you guys on board again. Great to have you, Jessica, as our special guest. And Journey, the bend in the road is not the end in the road unless you refuse to take the turn. So keep on growing and keep on rising up.